the week is complete. God has created the week. By the way, God not only created things during creation week, God created time measurements. Did God create the day of 24 hours? Yes. Did He create the month? Yes. Read it in Genesis 1 verse 16. Did God create the year? Yes. Did He create the seasons? Yes, He did. You can read it in Genesis. So the time measurements were also created by God. But you know, there's one measurement that's very interesting. The day has an astronomical explanation. The day is the amount of time that it takes our Earth to make one complete turn upon its axis. 24 hours. The month is the period between one new moon and another. The year is the amount of time that it takes our Earth to make one complete turn around the sun. But the week is arbitrary and has no astronomical explanation. Why? Because God measured off the first week. He created the week. But the first week is His week. He could not give it to man until He made the week. So let's go through the sequence again. God worked 6 days, ceased on the seventh day. When the seventh day ended, He blessed and sanctified it. Now the creation of the week was complete. And now God takes the week and He gives it to Adam and his descendants. Are you with me? Yes. Ellen White wrote the following words. Patriarchs and Prophets, page 111. Like the Sabbath, the week originated at creation. And it has been preserved and brought down to us through Bible history. God Himself measured off the first week. Yes. 7 segments of 24 hours. See, He uses measuring stick. God Himself measured off the first week as a sample for successive weeks to the close of time. Like every other, it consisted of 7 literal days. 6 days were employed in the work of creation. Now listen carefully. 6 days were employed in the work of creation. Upon the 7th, God rested and then blessed this day and set it apart as a day of rest for man. Is that clear? Yes. Crystal. So when does the Sabbath become the Sabbath for man? The first Sabbath is not man's Sabbath. It's God's Sabbath. When does the Sabbath become the Sabbath for man? Beginning with the second Sabbath of human history after God gives man the week. Are you following me or not? Now with these 4 premises in mind, we are ready to answer why God gave no command to Adam and Eve to cease on that first Sabbath. Folks, the evangelical debater didn't realize that by insisting that the word Shabbat means to cease, he was destroying his own argument. And I was almost screaming at the screen to the Adventist debater and saying, tell him this. Because by saying that the word Shabbat means to cease, he was destroying his own argument that the Sabbath was not a creation institution for man. You say, why is that? Let me ask you, why couldn't Adam and Eve cease on that first Sabbath? Because they had not worked. Cease from what? Could God cease? He had worked. Could man cease? No. He had worked. So in the debate, I would have told him, thank you very much for saying that the word Shabbat means to cease. Why didn't God tell Adam and Eve to cease? Because they hadn't worked. That's the first reason why God did not command Adam and Eve to cease on the Sabbath, because they hadn't worked. The second reason is that God could not give Adam and Eve the Sabbath before He created it. Sabbath before He could give it to man. And you say, well, did God make the Sabbath? Yes, He did. Mark chapter 2, verse 27 says, the Sabbath was made for man. And somebody might say, well, is made, does that mean creation? You better believe it does. It's used 4 times in John chapter 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made by Him, and without Him, nothing was made that was made. It's the same word in Mark 2:27. The Sabbath was made for man. The Sabbath was part of God's work of creation. God made it. But God could not give the Sabbath to Adam and Eve until it ended, because God created the Sabbath and then He gave it to man. Just like He created everything else and then gave them to man. Are you following me? Yes. Third, God could not tell Adam and Eve to keep that first Sabbath holy because it wasn't holy. You're not with me. When did that first Sabbath become holy? When it ended. So could God tell Adam and Eve at the beginning of that day, keep the Sabbath holy? No, they couldn't keep it holy because it wasn't holy yet. Following me? Yes, sir. Fourth, God blessed the Sabbath and made it holy. In the Bible, God never blesses anything for Himself. And He never makes something holy for Himself. Because God is the fountain of blessing and the fountain of holiness. So if God is blessing the Sabbath and making it holy, it's not for Him. It's for man. Fifth, Adam and Eve could not keep the Sabbath until God first gave them the example. Imagine when the Sabbath is beginning, God tells Adam and Eve, He didn't, but He says, keep the Sabbath. And Adam and Eve say, oh yeah, how? You see, God did not command Adam and Eve to keep the Sabbath. He demonstrated how to keep it. The entire day was a day of contemplation. In Genesis 1:31, it says that after the 6th day, it says, God saw everything that He had made, and lo, it was very good. The 7th day was a day for God to contemplate His majestic work of creation. By the way, God didn't enjoy the Sabbath by Himself. Job chapter 38, verse 7 says that the stars of heaven and the sons of God shouted for joy at creation. They also beheld the work of creation and said, wow, look at what God did. The entire 7th day was a day to enjoy the work that God had done, to contemplate the work that God had done. Ellen White, in the devotional book Lift Him Up, wrote, God made man in His own image and then gave him an example of observing the 7th day, which He sanctified and made holy. What did God do? He gave man an example. The 6th reason why God did not command Adam and Eve to keep that first Sabbath is, listen carefully now, the Sabbath becomes the day of rest for man beginning on the 2nd Sabbath of human history. The 4th commandment applies to human beings after the first week has come to an end. You say, well, where do you get that from? Well, what does the 4th commandment say? The 4th commandment says God worked 6 and what? Rested the 7th, and therefore man is to what? To work 6 and rest the 7th. So could Adam and Eve keep the 4th commandment on that first Sabbath? No, because they had to work 6. Are you with me? Yes. The commandment says work 6 and rest the 7th. Adam and Eve had not worked 6. So what God does is, He works 6, man doesn't. God ceases on the seventh. He's created the week. And then He gives the fourth commandment to man. He says, now you are going to work 6. And the next 7th day, you're going to keep the day like you saw me keep it. See, when we study the Bible, we have to think. The Lord says, come let us reason together. One of the big problems we have today is that people, even church members, we're